Hey everyone. I have a terrible cold, so I'm sorry that I sound so terrible. But I had this little tidbit about my new design, a little bit of, I guess, JavaScript magic, CSS, whatever, that I figured out with my background colors in WordPress, and I wanted to share it. So this is kind of an aside. I haven't made any big progress. I've been very busy, which is great. You know, I like to get paid and feed my family, but this is still fun. So anyway, I figured this little piece out and I thought it'd be great to share. It seems a little complicated. I guess it is a little complicated, but it just shows how modular, how extensible WordPress is, I guess. Anyway, I don't know the correct terminology, but anyway, I was able to do what I wanted to do, and I wanted to share it with everyone else. So I'm back in my site design. I'm using my child theme that I've made for GeneratePress, and this isn't anything I really created specifically for everybody. It's just what I use for my work and my clients, and I add to it all the time. So I share it. I hope that other people find it useful. I love to see other people forking it and using it as needed. That's great. That's really awesome. But anyway, so here's I'm working on my machine on Laragon on my computer. That's a little elephant thing here. So this is the design I'm working on. It's still very early, very basic, but the idea was to right now it's all one color, but the idea was that each one of these pages would be a different color. So there are a few different ways you can achieve that, certainly with CSS, and you can really do it, especially this is just for me, out of the box. I mean, technically you can go to the inspector here, and I'm in Edge. I'm just right clicking, and you can go up to the body, and you can see that each page has a unique class. It's page ID 164. So technically you could say make page ID 164, make the body background color this color, and be done. You really could, and honestly that would have saved me a lot of headache. But I guess I kept thinking, you know, if I were to do this for a client, I'd want to make it easy for them to switch colors. And I guess I just, in the back of my mind, I was like, can it be done? Is it something, how difficult would it be? And I actually saw in the GeneratePress group on Facebook, another guy had the great idea to use elements, and I had not thought of this. But what he did was he created a let's see, was it a hook, I think? So he created a hook, and what he did was, I believe he just injected a certain style. Whoops. You know, and it'd be like, I mean, I'm being really vague here. I don't know if this would work. Body background color red. And he would say, you know, yeah, do that in the head, but only do it on, where's my pages? Yeah, do it on page, and do it on, you know, the about page, and that's it. And he published it, done. And that's pretty freaking genius, using what GeneratePress gives you. Now again, you know, maybe this isn't for the client necessarily, although, you know, once you have these set up, and maybe you call this, you know, red or page background red, something like that. And, you know, the client can come in here pretty easily and add location rules for different pages. So, you know, really a good, straightforward idea. And I almost went with that, but I thought, I wonder if I can do something with custom fields. So I'm using advanced custom fields, and I started with the interface part, and I just called it page style. Get rid of that. It only shows up on pages. It is a select field type, and I've given it, so in advanced custom fields, and probably with pods or meta fields or whatever you're using, excuse me, you can give it a value and a name. So the value is actually, let me see. So I've defined my colors here. So burgundy, navy, and hunter green. So these will show up, navy, burgundy, hunter green. So these will show up as custom properties or variables in the head of my site. So there's hunter green, there's navy, there's burgundy right there. So I wanted to use these as a simple drop-down selector to switch page colors. So now if we go to pages, and I set it to show up in the sidebar. You can do that in advanced custom fields, but it doesn't really matter. Just you need a place in your page somewhere to be able to choose colors. And so here's my about page, and if I come down here to page style, color scheme, and I can choose navy, which it already is by default, hunter green, and it changes automatically, or burgundy, and I can update it. And I wanted that live editing capability so that you could see the changes as you make them in the editor, because that's, you know, that's the beauty of the Gutenberg editor. And over here on the live site, it's reflected as well. So what's happening is this color scheme selector is applying a class to the body. So over here again, if I go to the inspector, I go up to the body and I can see, here it is, has color scheme burgundy. Okay, and then in my CSS, my style.css, here's my overall background colors. See, there's burgundy right there. So body has color scheme burgundy. And then I also had to make a class, and here's where I can't decide. So that inside article div in GeneratePress applies a background color. I technically could go in and make all that stuff transparent just so that the body background color shows through, and I may end up doing that. But for now, I've just added this other selector in so that it also changes that background color. So there's my 3 color schemes, and that's really all it's doing. But to make it happen in the editor, so yeah, actually, okay, so let me back up. So in the editor, what I'm doing, I have to add a CSS file and a JavaScript file. So if you just think in these steps, so let's make it happen in the editor first. So in the editor, I've already got my custom field set up. It's a drop down and it has those select values. So I need to include a style sheet. So here's my, wait, here we go. Excuse me, admin scripts. So I'm including my editor CSS. Okay, this right here. And you see it has these same classes. So it'll affect the CSS within the editor view. And then also need to queue up a JavaScript file to change those colors on the fly. And all it's doing is looking at the body of the editor page and saying, okay, if he selected this, add this class to the body. And as soon as it does it, as soon as that class is changed, it looks at the CSS and it changes immediately. So there's a lot you can do with just manipulating classes in your HTML. So here's where I'm looking. So you can add block editor assets. So this is how you add assets to your Gutenberg editing. So it's saying as soon as the Gutenberg editor is fired up, let's go add these scripts. And there's an overall editor JS file that hides and shows certain blocks. First thing I need to do is I need to go get this global object called current screen, and it captures things about the editor page, and mainly what I want is what post type are we editing. So you can see here, this is only called up if someone is editing a post, a blog post. So there's this editor post.js, and you can look up this stuff. I mean, WP OnQ script, it's pretty common. Just Google it. It'll show up in the WordPress docs, and it'll show you what all these different things are. So I wanted one to show up for page, and it is editor-page.js. So as I said, I have my scripts for the editor. the CSS for the editor that shows up here. So I've got my what happens, what colors or what properties are applied when these classes show up in the editor body. And then I need a script to do the stuff to the editor body. So I was going to go through these. At first I thought I'd like hide this over to the side and kind of retype it, but I think it's helpful just to look at it and see what each one of them does. So initially I'm capturing some things from the editor page. The first of which is I'm creating a variable, and constant or const or whatever, I'm initializing it and saying this is a variable, it's not going to change. The let means, let this variable equal this. It can change if it needs to, but it's only going to happen within the scope of this function, I think is how it works. I'm not a JavaScript expert. This is kind of what I understand about it. So anyway, scheme body. I'm going to the document and then a query selector and saying get the body element, and just hold it within this variable. Go to the custom field, and you'll see, let's see, I'm in the editor. I'm going to right click on this custom field. I'm so sorry. I know I sound gross. I'm terribly sorry. Let's see if I can. Oh, there it is. Okay. So page color scheme. I really want, okay, label. Here we go. I want the select. Okay, so ID, there it is. I'm trying not to snort directly into the microphone. So I want to grab this element. So that's what I'm doing. Document get element by ID. And there's the ID value. So again, the scheme selector variable is holding the properties of that element. And then here, since I already have scheme selector, I'm saying, okay, so get the options for that scheme selector. So it's getting the options of this element, of the element with this ID, right? Follow me so far? Okay. So then for that scheme selector, remember I've captured that select element in the variable scheme selector. I'm saying, I'm adding an event listener. I'm saying listen for when this thing changes, and when it does, run this function. So update scheme is here. So when this function is fired, whenever that select element is changed, it's going and doing something else. It's saying, okay, now let the selected scheme equal, and this is kind of convoluted, but it's going through the options of the scheme selector, of that select dropdown. It's going through these options, and you can see them more clearly here in the HTML. And you see here's option navy, but the value of it is my class name. Here's navy, hunter green, burgundy. So saying go and grab the one that's selected and give me the value of it. So it's grabbing this, okay? And right now you'll see that burgundy is selected. And it's saying, okay, then you have to run a loop. So you have to go through the scheme options, see, that we've created here. In the for loop, you have to do this little thing where you say, okay, let I equal 0, as long as I is less than the length of scheme options, meaning that, how many options are there? There are 3. So it's going to loop 3 times, and it's going to check all these things. Okay, bear with me. So now it's going to go to the scheme body, and as it loops through all 3 of these, it's going to look for all 3 values, because we need to remove any instance of them. And this is just a way to kind of clean house before we set it to something that we want. So it's going to loop through each value of the scheme option. So it's going to go through navy, through burgundy, through hunter green. And it's going to look and see if the class has color scheme plus navy, burgundy, because that's the class name. And it's going to remove it. And then it's going to check and say, okay, well, we want to add to the scheme body, which is the body element of the page. We want to add to its class list the selected class. So again, we've held this value, selected scheme. We know that this is the one that's been chosen. And we want it to be added to the body. So we've removed all the others. We've added the one that's selected. So it's going to equal has color scheme. And all this is doing, it's appending, I think it's called concatenating. You know, this is a string. It's the beginning part of the class name, and it's going to add on to it the value chosen out of this. Okay, I'm probably not explaining this very clearly. I hope it kind of makes sense. And then lastly, so it's going to add that for us. So this will actually change the body class on the fly. And I'll show you how that works. And then lastly, I like to use console log. It just logs this value to the console to let me see whether it's changing or not and what's happening. So let's take a look. First, let's take a look at the console so you can see what I mean. So down here, you can see a few, and you get warnings, all kinds of stuff. So if I change it to navy, boop, see how navy popped up? Change it to hunter green popped up. Now let's look at the elements and go back to the body. And you'll see it kind of do this flashy thing. I'm gonna see if I can highlight it and change it again. There you go. Where is it? There it is at the very end. Has color scheme navy. So let's change it to burgundy. There you go, at the very end. Has color scheme burgundy. So you can see the JavaScript working. It's doing its thing and changing our class for us. And since we already have the classes that are included, the styles for those classes included in the editor page, it's picking up on those colors and showing them to us. Now there's one more piece that I haven't shown, and I've forgotten about it. I'm trying to remember where I did it. It might have been, was it Advanced Custom Fields? Yeah, here we go. So there's this last bit of PHP that I had to do to add the body class, you know, somewhat permanently, not just with JavaScript, but through PHP to both the front end and the editor page on the back end. If I sneeze, I'm very sorry. I'll try to do it away from the microphone. So, and there's a filter for that. There's always a filter for that in WordPress. It's great. So this filter for body class is just saying, hey, I want to add something to the body class of my own. And I already do this through the functions right here. So one of the things I like to do in my child theme is I add GPC, GeneratePress child, to the body class. And it lets me be more specific to override anything that GeneratePress is doing if I need to do that. So it just lets me add more specificity. Is that how you say it? Is that the word? To my CSS. So that's the same idea that I'm using here. So I put it in advanced custom fields.php. It's one of my includes in my child theme because it's advanced custom fields. It's making that happen. You know, you can add it wherever as long as it's called from the functions PHP. This file is included in functions.php. So yeah, so it's saying, okay, when this filter is called, run this function runs and it captures the classes of the body. And I'm saying right here, if get field page color scheme, that is, I just opened Firefox. I didn't mean to do that. That is this field right here. We'll go back to advanced custom fields just to show you. And you guys probably know how this works. and really just checking to see if a value has been set in that custom field for that page. Yeah, there's the name of it. So that's how you call it. So yeah, if get field page color scheme has been set, then this classes, it's an array. That's all that means, is that it's not just one thing, it's several values that I want to add this has color scheme. And again, like you saw it in the JavaScript, instead of a plus in JavaScript where I'm appending a value to a string, we're going to use a period. That's a difference between PHP and JavaScript. And I'm going to get the field again, page color scheme. So it's going to add has color scheme navy or burgundy or hunter green to that list of classes, and it's going to return it with that class added to it. So it's going to do that for the body class filter, which happens on the front end, and the admin body class filter, which happens in the admin part of WordPress. They're the same function. And gosh, I guess I could have called, I don't know if I could have done that, called the same function. I don't know. I'm not going to try that right now. You probably could do that and save a little bit of code, but it's so short. And I've included, I always do this just for reference for me or anyone else that happens to come in behind me on my code for any reason, a C or a link reference to where I got that information. So that's all the pieces. It sounds really complicated, and I guess, it was, there were a few things I had to do to make that happen, but it's really pretty cool in the end what we ended up with. The fact that I can change these colors on the fly, and I'm sure, I like to think that my clients would appreciate that if I needed to do this on their site, and maybe they're doing a little more art direction in their page layouts and they need some color variety, now I know that I have this in my back pocket and I can come pull it off if I need to. And it was just a fun little exercise. I'm going to change it to hunter green for now. So sorry, excuse me. Yeah, it was fun. And it just goes to show that there are all these little nooks and crannies in WordPress where you can do some pretty neat things. And you don't have to be a JavaScript wizard. It's just a matter of manipulating some classes. So yeah, I hope that was not too convoluted and you could follow along okay. Just to summarize, I added the custom field in advanced custom fields, had it show up just on pages, and had it capture the class names that I used for this has color scheme. I had to include in my admin scripts, I had to include my styles for the admin editor, which is admin CSS editor CSS, which I keep over here. Here's my admin folder. Here's my GeneratePress child theme. And I have an admin folder that I just keep some stuff in that I need. Here's my CSS for the admin and JavaScript for the admin. Here's that editor page JS. It's over here. That has the JavaScript that does all that stuff in the admin that makes the magic happen. So this is the CSS that affects the editor. And then I also had to come down here to these block editor assets. And again, these are, common hooks in WordPress. I had to capture this current screen object that has information about what page you're editing, because I only wanted to show up on pages. So here I'm saying if we're on, if the current screen post type is page, then include this editor script. So this editor script manipulates the body class of the editor page and adds and removes classes based on what I've selected from that select dropdown, and has the style show through immediately in the editor because JavaScript is adding and removing these classes. But then for permanence, or what's happening on the actual front end to save that class, I'm including, and in my advanced custom fields include in my child theme. And just to show you real quick, this is my functions.php file, which all themes have. I have this list of included files in my ink folder, and advanced custom fields is one of them. And I do this so I can comment out stuff I don't need or I'm not using at the time. I just like to keep it all separate. So I have to include it and say add this body class to the front end, and also use the filter admin body class to include it on the back end, so that when I go back into the editor after it's been saved, it remembers that class and, you know, shows the correct color accordingly. And what I mean is I've saved it as hunter green, so if I back out and then come back in, it should still be green. Yay, it's still green. So yeah, that is it. I hope that's helpful. Sorry to draw this out forever, but real work gets in the way. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll be with me on whenever I get around to doing the next part, which I hope will be fleshing out these pages a little bit more and adding some actual content. And I eventually want to get around to adding my portfolio. Again, trying to use as little code as possible, if any, to use the what GeneratePress and GenerateBlocks have given us for creating our own custom archive templates without code. So we'll see. Like, subscribe, all the usual cool YouTube stuff, and I appreciate it, and see you guys the next time.